Hi, this is Kevin Rosenstein. I'm in San Francisco today. Thank you very much for the opportunity to judge the Young Artist Showcase. I thought this was a really interesting challenge in the sense that, at least for me, I wasn't familiar with Conor Garvey's music, and it sounded like some of you weren't either. And I know that that adds a special twist to how you go about your choreography. So thank you for the opportunity to judge you. Thank you for putting yourselves out for these challenges. It's a great opportunity for you and for the skating community. So I'm just going to go in the order that I watched the videos and go through and have my comments and then my ratings. So the first video I watched was Mark Hanratty, and I have to say, in going back through Conor Garvey's interviews about what he was looking for around creativity, understanding, growth, risk, and inclusion, I thought, Mark, that you and then skating with your wife, you did a really wonderful job incorporating all 5 of those elements. I thought that there were some really interesting repetitions of movement throughout the piece that went really well with the music. I thought the path of the walking and the sort of feeling that you had in relationship to each other came through really strongly. And I thought that there was a lovely build toward the end of the music. And in particular, when Conor was talking about risk, where there was a particular move where your wife was down in a lunge, backwards lunge, and you were gliding and then kind of swept around her. I thought the timing of that in the music and that particular move were really exceptional. So I think overall it was a really strong performance. For me it was 5 stars and a great effort. So the second video I watched was Sean. Sean, I thought that overall you also had a really good grasp of the 5 different elements that Conor was looking for. I thought that there was interesting creativity and good use of skating throughout the entire performance. What I mean by that is it was, while there were places where you were static, for the most part there was movement throughout the entire piece. I thought that that was really lovely. I thought that it built to the end, and so the growth and risk that Conor talked about as elements that he was looking for were really in evidence. I got the sense of kind of wandering around a pond or pacing and strolling, which you had spoken about in your introduction, and I thought that came through really well also. In particular, one thing I thought worked well is you and your movement really loosened up toward the end of the program, and I thought that that was a benefit to the music, benefit to the choreography. So overall, I gave you 3.5 stars for that performance. The next video I watched was Garrett, and Garrett, I wanted to comment. I thought along the lines of both creativity and understanding, going back to Conor's comments, that I thought you did a really fantastic job. I thought the tone of your piece and the interplay that you had with the individual you were skating with was really great, and I thought it matched the music really well, and that it provided a really strong understanding. I mean, it was really age appropriate and playful, and it seemed to have sort of that great sort of feeling of someone who was a shadow or a second person that was also then a part of you. So I thought that that was really strong. In fact, one of the best, I thought, in concept. I thought overall there were some places that I really liked. There was a spot where you were both doing some moves standing still and going up on your heels, and then doing some skating moves coming out of that worked great as partners. And it was a nice kind of interplay of earlier in the program where you were doing moves that were contradictory to each other, and at that point kind of matched up and were back in unison. I thought that was a really strong way of kind of handling that music. I only rated it a 3-star, and the only reason why is I felt that there were some places where the choreography was a bit sloppier, and I know that that has to do also with the playfulness of it, but it felt like there were places where with a bit more time and a bit more development, it could be better choreographed in terms of the cleanliness. And so I think that the piece itself had a great concept, a great idea, and some strong moments, and I would say just in terms of where I would look to additional work would be in some of the upfront movements to be better extensions, and then also a little bit better planned or practiced. Thank you. The next program that I watched in order was Marielle's piece, and again I thought that Marielle looking across the 5 different elements, that you did a really lovely job around creativity, understanding, and inclusion. I thought of all of the pieces, you were the piece that, for me, brought me most into the program, and for me was one of the more emotional pieces of the day today. I really liked the work of the 3 of you together, and I thought that the way that you had set up the triangular patterns on the ice, and then the way that the 3 of you came together and separated, especially with the very emotional ending, which again gets to sort of a piece that Connor reflected on around growth, and growth over the course of the piece was quite lovely. I thought that it was a nice concept to have your mother and your sister as participants in the piece, obviously, and I thought that the emotions of it worked really well. So based on the concepts and then the way that you met the criteria to me around creativity, understanding, growth, and inclusion, I thought that it was a 4.5 star for today, and I thought it was a really lovely job, and congratulate you, your mom, and your sister. So the next piece I watched was BB's piece, and BB, I thought it was interesting in your introduction that you mentioned that you had a little bit of trouble picking a particular piece. And I think that for me, I understood and could tap into and see what you were picking up on in terms of hearing a music with a particular groove and the ability to skate to that groove. I think at the same time, in listening to the words and in thinking and considering the actual challenge that you all are going through, that there was some more opportunity that could have been taken advantage of. You all are in the same way putting your souls out for these different choreography challenges, and I thought it was interesting the lyrics that Connor sings about, that was something that you didn't seem to pick up on in the way that you were kind of focused on the kind of musicality. Your skating was lovely, and I thought one thing in particular that stood out for me in this challenge was you were one of the few people who used the spin element throughout the program. And having the multiple spins for me went really well with the particular music and Connor Garvey's music. So I thought that was something that was really nice and something that could have been picked up upon with the type of music that he performs. Based on that kind of commentary for me, I only had it at a 2.5 star for today. I think you're a lovely skater. I just think there was more opportunity with the particular piece and the challenge of taking on music that you might not be quite as familiar with. The next piece that I watched was Amy's piece, and Amy, I thought it was again a really lovely piece that seemed to capture the kind of literal meaning of the song, but to do it in a very figurative and skating and choreography oriented way. I thought that the use of mirror skating and around the idea of reflections was really beautiful for me, and I thought the way that you interacted with your partner throughout that performance helped really support what you were trying to do around the choreography. I also really liked that there were places that, in addition to working as mirror and working in a mirror format, that then you pulled together and were skating complementary to each other and skating as pairs without the reflection. So I thought overall that the performance was really strong. For me, it did build. It had sort of that growth, again, that Connor was looking for. There were some interesting kind of movements, and I liked how you used the different ice surfaces, moving from the center and doing reflections at the center, but then picking up kind of the end pattern of the arena. And so there was movement to the skating, which was really nice. So the next skater I watched was choreographer I watched was Robert's program. I have to say that I thought, Robert, you did a lovely job again on picking up on the different aspects of what Connor was suggesting in his piece. I did my best to make sure that I wasn't actually doing comparison. It was interesting watching your program after Amy's program, but because there were some commonalities and some differences. I thought the on-ice work was really quite beautiful, and I thought there were places where, especially when you went to the long angle on the camera, where the contractions that you and your partner were using were really effective. And I thought that there was a particular place where there was kind of a big sweep that was quite nice as well. For me, I think that there could have been more skating and a little bit less choreography that was done standing at various points in the arena. There was one moment where you both went down and kind of swept the ice with your hands down at the far end of the rink that I thought was really quite a lovely move. And I was kind of looking for more of that type of movement and less of kind of more standing choreography. And so the rating I gave was 3.0 stars. I think it did have creativity, certainly understanding for the music, but it felt like it needed to have a little more movement for me around actual skating moves. The last skater that I watched was Katherine, and I think Katherine, it was again interesting to hear a different piece, one that hadn't been used by anyone else, and to see how you chose to interpret that piece. I thought it was adventurous to take on 3 skaters, and I thought it was also nice to have the 2 women and 1 male skater. I thought that brought some interesting variation, creativity to the piece, and a bit of risk. I thought that there were some places in the program that felt like they got a little sloppy, and you referenced, in fact, earlier that there were some challenges and accommodations that you needed to make through the course of the week. I thought that some of the particular movements where you were watching for the bird or Birdman and kind of the circus feel to things was really effective, but I felt overall some of the moves did get a bit sloppy, and they didn't feel like they were choreographed as tightly or performed as tightly as you intended them to be choreographed. And so overall, I thought it was interesting. There was definitely risk. There was definitely a theme and creativity to the piece. But I think with additional time, again, it would have been a piece that could have gotten a higher ranking from me. I was at a 2.5 star, and congratulate all of the choreographers. I thought it was a really fun week, and I really appreciated the opportunity to get to do this.